In this video, I'm going to show you how to break out of a mental rut. So let's get right into it. So first things first, we need to understand, how did you actually end up in a rut in the first place? Well, the only reason why you're in a rut is because of one thing, and that's momentum. See, momentum is an interesting thing. We all know that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And momentum is actually just energy, and it's impersonal energy. Meaning it doesn't care who you are, how nice you are, how mean you are, your status, whatever, it doesn't matter. Momentum will still treat everyone the exact same. And that is because it's impersonal. See, momentum is an energy that only reacts to one thing, your actions, okay? And now that we know this, we can extrapolate a mental rut to be a state where there is negative momentum pushing you downwards, keeping you stuck in this cycle of self-sabotage, cycle of inaction, cycle of depression, cycle of whatever the fuck, right? It feels so hard to get out of this rut because it feels like you're stuck in this pit with nowhere to grab on and to escape. And every day it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and now you're at a point where it's so deep that it's just impossible, even unfathomable for you to escape. But keep watching because you learn that it's not impossible. It's actually really easy to get out of a rut. But anyways, momentum is the thing that is keeping you stuck in this rut, in this pit, let's say this U-shaped thing is a pit, okay? And you ended up in this position because of the actions. Now, like I said, momentum simply reacts to action, okay? And an action, there could be a positive action and a negative action, right? And what I mean when I say momentum is impersonal, it doesn't care if you're some kind of priest, some kind of homeless guy, some malicious guy, some virtuous guy, it doesn't care, okay? The only thing it cares about is what actions you take in your life. And actions, we know that there is a positive action and there is a negative action. And it's actually this binary pole, positive and negative, that dictates whether you reach success even easier or you reach failure or being stuck in a rut, right? So right now, the only reason you're in this position, you're in this rut, is because you've been taking actions, negative actions that bring downward momentum and is pushing you closer towards failure, okay? Digging you deeper in this imaginary hole, and for every negative action you take, the hole gets deeper and deeper, and your weight gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and now you're at a point where you just can't get up, right? But if your life consisted of positive actions, meaning actions that would benefit your life, improve your life, then positive actions start to feel easier. Actions you thought were hard and required discipline no longer feels like a task anymore. It feels natural, and that's because of positive momentum, right? The more positive actions you do, the stronger the positive momentum and the faster you actually rise up. But again, being stuck in a rut is simply just having negative momentum pushing you down and making the actions that keep you stuck much easier, but the actions that are going to help you get out of the rut harder. And now that you know this, you're probably thinking, oh, okay then, Rayon, all I have to do is just start taking positive action. No, it's not that simple, sadly. And this is because it's never a good idea to face momentum head on, right? Knowing that you have maybe days, months, or even years of negative momentum holding you down, now that you realize that the enemy is momentum, and you try to face it by completely changing your routine, changing your actions, changing your habits in one day. Going from a loser that scrolls on his phone for 10 hours a day, eats junk food, wanks, and does all these bad things. And now that you finally know in order to break out of this state is to just take positive action, so you try to overcompensate by completely switching everything you're doing now, is the stupidest thing you could do. You know why? Because momentum is strong, okay? It's a cumulative energy. It's been picking up for years, days, months, while you only have a day's worth of energy. You will never beat a month worth of energy with a day's worth of energy. And this is the most common trap people that get into self-improvement fall into, is that they learn what they need to do, and then they do it, but they overdo it. It feels impossible, it feels hard. And some people end up doing it for a day, but then they can't continue the next day because of the overwhelming amount of momentum holding them back down, right? So now you're probably wondering, well, Rayon, if that's not the solution, then what do I do? Well, we are now going to start something I call the escape protocol. What does that mean? The first step to actually breaking out of a rut is to stop feeding momentum right now. Because, like I said in the beginning, the only reason you're in a rut is because you have negative momentum pushing you down, right? And each day you're adding on to this negative momentum. I bet you didn't know this, but what I'm about to bring up is going to make you realize that you've been feeding negative momentum. See, let's say for example, 14 days ago, I bet you were only scrolling for an hour a day, right? But after 14 days, how many hours are you scrolling now? I bet it's around 4, 5, 6 hours maybe, 3 hours, 2 hours. The point is, it's always going to be more than what it was back then. And that's because back then the momentum wasn't as strong. The pit, the rut wasn't as deep, right? But now with time, it gets deeper and stronger and deeper. It's never stagnant. It's always going one direction. It's either going down or it's going up. And momentum is what dictates that. And in that same topic, one of the other biggest traps is being stagnant in this neutral state. Not even neutral actually, just being stagnant in general, where someone would constantly feed negative momentum, but also feed positive momentum. So if they're already at a negative state and they want to escape, and they try to feed their positive momentum, but they also feed their negative momentum by having negative actions, then they just end up staying in the same exact place forever. Nothing changes. So first, you need to stop feeding what's digging you down. Stop that first, right? So the very first step is to stop taking more negative actions. And what I mean by that is not to completely get rid of all negative actions. No, keep doing what you're doing, just don't do more of it. If yesterday you did 2 hours of scrolling, today do 2 hours of scrolling, no more, no less, okay? I want you to first stop the negative momentum instead of it being stronger and stronger. I want you to stop feeding it, first of all. And once you get used to it, then you can finally start step 2, momentum reversal. Now, the strength of your momentum is simply dictated by the number of actions you take and the time spent doing those actions, okay? And reversal is about reducing the time spent on the action while also reducing the amount of actions you take. So, if you're in a rut, that means negative momentum is pushing you down. And negative momentum, where does it come from? Negative actions. So what I basically mean by reversal is to simply slowly, very, very slowly and slightly reduce the time spent doing negative actions and reduce your negative actions. So once you get used to, being stagnant at 2 hours of scrolling, maybe try to reduce the time a little bit, right? But don't let momentum catch on. Because if momentum catches on, it's going to push you towards, overcompensating for the time lost. And you're gonna end up relapsing into 3 hours of scrolling. So we don't want that. We want to move as discreetly as possible so momentum doesn't find out, okay? And once you get to a point where you reverse the negative momentum, only then can we start step 3, which is replace. Now, before momentum notices that you're taking away actions from it, that is giving it energy, right, and giving it power over you. Before that happens, you want to replace the actions that was in place of feeding the momentum with positive ones. Because right now, the only reason for you being in a rut is because you've been taking 100 negative actions a day, let's say. And right now, with step 1 and step 2, you've gone from 100 to about 50, right? But then there's 50 slots of actions that has to be filled. And when momentum notices that there's nothing to be filled, it's just gonna push you towards taking negative actions because that's already what's been set, right? So we need to quickly replace those 50 slots with new actions, a positive action, right? So you take away an hour of phone scrolling, replace that with 10 minutes of reading, 15 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of reading, an hour of reading. And step 3 is basically the transitional phase where you go from negative momentum and you turn it into positive momentum, okay? Then once you do that, fully go all in on positive actions. Once you get to a point where you're comfortable and you're confident that you're ready to finally escape this rut and leave all the negative actions behind, go all in with your positive actions. Just to give you a better understanding, the only time you would make this decision is when you're 50-50. 50% taking negative actions, 50% taking positive actions. Now you're at a crossroads where am I gonna put all of my energy into? And there, I want you to choose the positive actions. When you do that, you will skyrocket up and out of the pit you're in, the rut you're in. You will become a completely new person, okay? So, to begin the escape, step 1 is to stop feeding the momentum. Step 2 is to reverse the momentum. Step 3 is to replace the momentum. And step 4 is to go fully all in your new direction of momentum, okay? Now, I wanna set some expectations for you. This is not a one-day thing. Anything great in life worth working towards is not a one-day thing. Don't expect to completely switch your momentum and get out of a rut in one day. Like I said, that's one of the biggest traps people fall into, right? Just know that step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 might take a week, might take a month, might take a year. Okay, no, it's not gonna take a year, don't worry. It's not gonna take a fucking whole year to get out of a rut. It should realistically take a week to 2 weeks of consistent, persistent action towards changing the direction of your momentum. That's all it is. Now that you know everything you need to know to escape a rut, all you need is the will to escape the rut. I can't teach you that, and I can't give you that. So the only thing I ask of you now is to do it. Take the fucking steps, okay? I have equipped you, gave you the resources to win this war. You now have to go out there and fight the war. Now, if you've been endlessly watching self-improvement videos and you still feel stuck, lost, and you're still stuck in this cycle and you just can't change for the life of you, click the first link in the description below and it'll take you to a video where I show you how to make change fast and easy. Now, you don't have to click it if you don't want to. It is actually only for people that are serious about change. And also, if you want to surround yourself with like-minded people, click the second link in my description below and it'll take you to my free Discord server where you can surround yourself with other people on the same journey to change. Right? That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Comment down your ideas below, and I'll see you in the next one.